You begin in stillness. The air is cool, the night vast and unhurried. Above you, the stars hold their distant fires, patient and timeless. Beneath you, something older breathes, something that does not sleep, not in the way you do, the earth. Your home rests in silence, yet deep within, it hums, a low, endless rhythm that has echoed since time began. You stand, or perhaps you lie down, on the quiet skin of the planet, unaware that beneath your weight lies an entire cosmos of hidden motion. The soil beneath your fingertips feels cool. It smells faintly of minerals, roots, and rain, a soft surface that cradles life. But beneath this calm, a story unfolds. The earth is not still. It is a living archive of change. It remembers the shaping of mountains, the drifting of continents, the quiet settling of oceans. And though it turns so slowly, you cannot feel it. Every grain of sand and speck of dust is part of its ancient pulse. You close your eyes and imagine sinking, not falling, but descending gently, like a leaf in slow motion, through the layers of the world. The first layer welcomes you like the softest quilt. This is the crust, the thin outer shell that carries everything you know, the forests, the rivers, the cities, the laughter and movement of humankind. Compared to the earth's size, it is fragile, delicate. Imagine an apple. The crust is thinner than its skin. Yet this delicate skin holds mountains that touch the sky and oceans that plunge miles deep. It holds the memory of continents that once fit together, the ghost outlines of Gondwana and Pangaea, floating through time like drifting countenance of thought. As you breathe, you picture the tectonic plates, those slow-moving rafts of rock beneath your feet. They drift upon a sea of softer, hotter material below the mantle. They move just centimeters each year, but in that slow dance, they shape the face of the planet. Mountains rise where plates meet. Valleys form where they pull apart. The Himalayas still grow taller, inch by inch, as India presses into Asia. The Atlantic widens slowly as the seafloor spreads. Everything moves, but so gently you would never notice. You feel yourself drifting deeper, past the crust, into the mantle. Here, the world is no longer solid, nor liquid, but something in between, a place of patience, of heat and flow. The rocks here move like slow honey, soft under immense pressure. This layer is vast. It makes up most of Earth's volume, though you would never see it. The mantle is where the quiet breath of magma begins. Imagine the mantle as a vast ocean of stone, its waves taking millions of years to roll. Convection. Currents rise and fall within it, carrying heat from the core toward the surface, returning cool material downward again. It is an invisible circulation, a deep heartbeat, keeping the earth alive. You realize that the planet is not dead rock, it is a dynamic being. Its surface breathes through volcanoes. Its crust flexes with tides of molten rhythm. Its core burns with energy from its birth, still releasing the heat of its creation. As you travel deeper, the pressure grows. The air of your imagination compresses. Sound changes. What once felt like stone now feels like glowing metal. You enter the outer core, a river of liquid iron and nickel. Temperatures soar to over 4,000 degrees Celsius, hotter than the surface of the sun. Yet, in this imagined descent, the heat feels soft, like warmth spreading through your bones. The liquid metal churns slowly, creating something extraordinary, Earth's magnetic field. You imagine it like a cocoon of invisible light surrounding the planet, a guardian shield that deflects solar wind and cosmic rays. Without it, the atmosphere would strip away, and the oceans would fade into space. You exist because this molten ocean flows. Each turn of its metallic current is like the sweep of a brush across the canvas of space, painting protection, life, and stability. The sound here is deep and low, like the slow beat of a drum underwater. It is the sound of the dynamo effect, the motion of molten iron generating magnetism. You think of how a compass points north, a simple tool, yet one that whispers of this immense, unseen current. You carry the planet's heartbeat with you every time you hold a compass in your hand. Still deeper, the movement fades. The liquid gives way to something solid, the inner core, a sphere of compressed iron and nickel, glowing white-hot, spinning slightly faster than the rest of the Earth. It is solid not because it is cold, but because the pressure here is beyond imagining, more than 3 million times what you feel at the surface. This is the heart of the planet, the oldest and densest part, born when the world itself was young and molten. Pause here. Listen. On your mind, you can hear the faint, slow rhythm of the core, not a sound, but a pulse, a vibration of being. The entire planet vibrates with it, from this central seed outward to the cool crust where you began. The Earth's core rotates within its shell, stirring heat upward, driving the slow currents of the mantle, which in turn move the plates above. Everything from the drift of continents to the sparkle of a volcano's fire begins here. At this silent center, you understand now that you live not on the Earth's surface, but on its skin, a thin veil, atop a world of motion and heat. Beneath you, the planet is not sleeping. It is dreaming in slow motion. Each dream takes eons. Each breath lasts 1,000,000 years. When you walk across the ground tomorrow, perhaps you will feel it, that faint hum beneath your steps. It is the hum of gravity and heat, of cycles so slow that even mountains rise and crumble before one heartbeat is complete. The rocks beneath your town were once lava. The sand beneath the sea was once mountain. The mountain will one day return to sand. Nothing in the earth is lost. Everything changes, form, always moving, always becoming. The story of the planet is not unlike your own. You, too, are made of ancient elements, forged in stars and bound into life through the Earth's chemistry. The iron in your blood once belonged to the same cosmic dust that formed the core you now imagine. You and the planet share lineage, share warmth, share rhythm. You begin to see the Earth not as a rock beneath you, but as a companion, a being of deep patience. It holds you gently while carrying the weight of time itself. The deeper you imagine going, the more you feel that this descent is not downward, but inward. The heat you find there, the glow of molten iron and magma, feels like something familiar. It mirrors the quiet energy that keeps your own heart beating. The same forces that move continents also move the atoms in your veins, the crust, the mantle, the core. Each is a layer of being. Each has its own rhythm, its own purpose. And together, they hold life in balance. Warmth beneath coolness, pressure beneath air, motion beneath stillness. You rise again, slowly, retracing your path through the molten outer core, past the mantle's slow-moving waves, until you reach the crust once more. The journey upward feels lighter now. You understand what lies below, and that knowledge feels like calm. The world you return to is the same, and yet not the same. The ground feels steadier, the sky wider. You imagine that beneath every forest, every city, every ocean, the same deep currents move, carrying the story of the earth through time. You look around, and even silence feels full. The hum beneath the soil is the sound of belonging, the reminder that you are part of something vast, ancient, and alive. You stand quietly, hand pressed to the ground. Somewhere beneath your palm, the mantle's heat still drifts upward, slow as breath. The crust beneath you rests, but it is not asleep. It listens, the way all living things do. You close your eyes and imagine yourself sinking slowly through the skin of the earth, a soft descent through layers of stone and time. Above you, the surface is calm, a whisper of wind moving across soil and trees. But below, the stillness begins to warm. You are moving into a world that hums, a place of quiet fire. The deeper you go, the more you feel the heartbeat of the planet, a rhythm so slow and ancient that it feels almost eternal. Here, deep beneath your feet, magma waits, not as a restless ocean, but as a steady pulse of molten stone. It is the hidden blood of the earth, moving through veins of rock, reshaping the crust from within. In the same way that your heart sends life to your body, Earth's molten heart sends warmth to its surface, sustaining cycles that have existed for billions of years. Every eruption, every mountain, every island born from the sea, all are notes in the quiet music of magma's flow. As you drift deeper, the temperature rises. The rocks around you begin to glow in shades of ember and gold. This isn't chaos, it's rhythm. Magma doesn't move in fury, but in patience, taking centuries, even millennia, to travel from the deep mantle toward the surface. It flows through cracks, called magma conduits, traveling like slow honey under immense pressure. Each drop that rises carries the memory of ancient minerals, melted and remade. You pause for a moment and imagine this molten world as an artist's studio, one that never sleeps. The earth sculpts itself from within, erasing old shapes, drawing new ones. The crust above bends and lifts, forming mountains or opening deep valleys. Sometimes, magma cools quietly below the surface, solidifying into crystals of granite and basalt, beautiful, enduring reminders of the fire that once moved there. Other times, it bursts through the surface, a brief, fierce act of creation, followed by calm. The science of magma is a story of transformation. When rock melts, it doesn't vanish. It becomes fluid, alive, ready to change. This melting begins in the mantle, where temperatures can exceed 1,000 degrees Celsius. But temperature alone isn't enough. Pressure, water, and chemistry all join in a delicate balance. When pressure drops or water seeps in from subducting oceanic plates, rocks begin to melt, slowly, gracefully, like snow meeting sunlight. From that moment, magma is born. You picture these molten pockets forming deep within the mantle, glowing softly, as if breathing. Each pocket is a thought, a stirring. And just as ideas rise in your mind, seeking expression, magma rises through the crust, seeking release. Not all of it reaches the surface. Some cools and solidifies underground, creating vast chambers of igneous rock. slow, steady monuments to time. Others find pathways upward, pushing through fractures and layers, until finally they greet the sky. The movement of magma is gentle, but inevitable. Like a dream taking form, it rises when conditions allow, when cracks open, when pressure finds an escape. Scientists call this process magmatic differentiation. As magma rises, it cools, and different minerals crystallize at different temperatures. Iron and magnesium settle first, leaving lighter minerals like quartz and feldspar to linger near the top. Each mineral, each crystal, tells a story about where it formed and how long it traveled. Inside every grain of cooled lava lies a record of patience, the handwriting of heat and time. You drift through a volcanic chamber where molten rock glows in deep orange light. It is not violent here. It is serene, almost sacred. Tiny gas bubbles rise and pop softly, like rain against a pond. The air vibrates with quiet tension, a reminder that creation often begins with pressure. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the earth exhaling, releasing energy it has held for millions of years. In this dreamlike descent, you begin to see how the planet manages its own balance. When internal heat builds up, it finds pathways to release. Volcanoes, though fierce, are part of this release, pressure valves in the machinery of a living planet. You drift further into the warmth, following the soft pulse you felt in the last chapter, the heartbeat of the earth. It hums in low tones, like a lullaby older than memory. Around you, the crust fades away, and the world glows from within. The air is gone now, replaced by pressure and heat, not burning, but enveloping. Like the memory of sunlight beneath the skin, you are entering the mantle, a vast and gentle ocean of rock that moves so slowly. It might seem still if you watched for a lifetime, but it is never still. It flows, bends, and breathes, carrying countenance on its shoulders the way waves carry ships across the sea. Imagine the ground you walk on, mountains, valleys, cities, all floating on this slow, invisible current. You don't feel it, but it's always there beneath your quiet life, turning the world in cycles too vast for human time. Each movement of the mantle is a sigh in the story of creation. When the earth first formed, more than 4.5 billion years ago, it was a molten sphere, a fiery newborn wrapped in chaos. Over eons, the surface cooled, forming a crust that could finally hold oceans and life. But the core remained hot, not just from its violent birth, but from radioactive decay, the slow breaking apart of atoms deep in the belly of the planet. That decay still happens, even now, keeping the mantle alive and warm. It is here, in this quiet heat, that energy gathers and releases, shaping everything above. You might picture it like this. Imagine a candle flame under wax. The wax softens, flows, and reforms, always changing, but never vanishing. That's what the mantle does to the crust above. It softens it, reshapes it, drives it into motion. Over millions of years, this gentle, invisible movement shifts continents, opens oceans, and closes them again. This movement has a name: convection. Hot material rises, cools as it nears the crust, then sinks again, a rhythm as slow as breathing. Through this rhythm, mountains rise, volcanoes form, and the face of the planet renews itself. You live on a planet that never sleeps. You might close your eyes now and imagine this motion, the rise and fall, the warm flow beneath everything you know. It is like the tide, but of stone instead of water. It never stops. It only changes pace depending on how the earth breathes. The continents drift because of this. They ride atop the mantle like rafts on a slow current, their paths imperceptible day by day, but undeniable through the ages. Beneath the quiet green fields and calm blue oceans, the mantle is alive, not with flame, but with motion. And that motion is the whisper of the planet's story. If you could touch it, it would not be liquid the way water is. It would feel solid but soft, able to flow over eons. The pressure is immense, the heat beyond comprehension, but the rhythm is calm. It is here, in this realm of slow motion, that volcanoes are born. Not in explosions, but in whispers, in gradual buildups of energy, in the long patience of the earth. Tiny pockets of molten rock, called magma, form where the heat becomes trapped. These pockets rise toward the crust, like air bubbles rising through honey. Most never reach the surface. They cool quietly within the earth, forming crystals, feeding mountains from below. But some continue upward, and those are the seeds of volcanoes. Sometimes they find weak spots in the crust, fractures, faults, or thin places where ancient rock has stretched. There, the magma gathers, pressing slowly against the stone, waiting. It does not rush. It does not rage. It waits. This waiting can last thousands, even millions of years. The surface world continues. Forests grow. Oceans shift. Civilizations rise, all while below, molten stone hums softly, dreaming of release. When you think of a volcano, perhaps you imagine fire and chaos, lava spilling like red rain. But here, beneath the calm surface, the process is quiet, as patient as the pulse of time. You rise slowly from the molten glow of the mantle, carried upward by the warmth that never sleeps. The heat lessens, but it does not fade. It settles deep, ancient, and patient beneath the stone above. This is where the earth begins to wait. Here, in the slow spaces between crust and mantle, lie the magma chambers, hidden worlds of liquid rock, pressure, and time. They are not open caverns like the ones you might imagine. They are dense, sealed pockets where molten stone collects and cools with an almost sentient stillness. You hover there, feeling the pulse of the planet. The pressure rises and falls, like the breath of something vast and asleep. If you could see through the crust, you would find these chambers scattered like glowing embers beneath continents and seas. Some are small, a few kilometers wide. Some are immense, stretching across hundreds of miles, reservoirs of molten stone that have not stirred for millennia. It is in these hidden chambers that supervolcanoes are born, not in explosion, not in fury, but in accumulation, a long, quiet gathering of power. Each grain of molten crystal, each drop of magma joins another. Over centuries, they rise from the mantle, pooling beneath the crust, where it bends but does not break. Here, the rock acts as both gatekeeper and guardian, trapping the heat, holding it, shaping it. You can imagine this place as a vast lung, the planet's own breathing space. When it fills, pressure builds. When it empties, the earth exhales. Each cycle is slower than history, yet constant as if the planet dreams in geological time. The magma in these chambers is not uniform. It changes, cooling in layers, crystallizing near the edges, staying molten at the heart. Every mineral tells a story. Iron and magnesium, heavy and dark, sink toward the bottom. Silica, light and viscous, drifts upward, creating zones of different temperaments within a single body. This slow stratification matters, for it determines what kind of eruption may one day occur. The more silica that gathers, the thicker and more resistant the magma becomes. Pressure grows because the magma cannot flow freely. It clings to itself, reluctant to release. It is this reluctance that makes supervolcanoes so immense in their power and so long in their waiting. You drift closer to the chamber's edge now. The walls around you glisten with molten crystal. Bubbles rise through the magma, not quickly, but at a pace so slow it feels eternal. Each one carries dissolved gases, water vapor, carbon dioxide, sulfur. They are the whispers of the deep earth, trapped until something allows them to escape. When you listen closely, you can almost hear the faintest sound, a hum, a sigh, a vibration that feels more than heard. It is the sound of pressure building cell by cell, crystal by crystal. Not chaos, simply persistence. Above, the crust is still. Mountains stand serene. Forests grow. Rain falls. Civilizations rise and forget what sleeps beneath them. But here, in the earth's quiet lungs, the waiting continues. Every few thousand years, new magma rises from below, feeding the chamber again. Sometimes it cools without consequence. Sometimes it mixes with older magma, thickening the brew. And sometimes it tips the balance, just enough to change stillness into motion. When the pressure exceeds the strength of the crust, the earth exhales. That exhalation can carve valleys, darken skies, and rewrite climates. Yet before such release, there is always silence, the deep, perfect calm of potential energy. You might think of it like a held breath. The planet inhales for tens of thousands of years, gathering warmth and gas, thickening its molten reservoirs. And then, in a single moment, it exhales, a burst that can last for days or weeks, but echoes for millennia. But for now, in this moment of your descent, the earth is still inhaling. The magma rests. The chambers sleep. And within that slumber, there is profound peace. You drift through this stillness like a feather in warm air. The walls of the chamber pulse faintly. It feels alive, but not dangerous. Alive in the way the ocean is alive. Vast, slow, encompassing. You sense how deeply this connects to the rhythms of life above. Volcanic gases, though feared, are also the breath of the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide, born in these depths, once warmed the planet enough to cradle life. Without the heat and pressure below, there would be no land, no mountains, no life. The sleeping chambers are not merely threats. They are the wombs of renewal. You remember now that the crust above them feeds the forests that purify the air. The minerals formed in cooling magma become soil, stone, and even gems. Ruby, obsidian, basalt, granite, all gifts from these silent, fiery lungs. The planet gives, reshapes, and gives again. You are floating through the balance between creation and destruction. The line between them is thin, but gentle, like the surface of a pond reflecting the sky. Sometimes faint tremors ripple through this world, tiny adjustments. The crust sighs, cracks shift, gas finds narrow passageways. Each tremor is a release, preventing the greater exhale. The planet knows how to keep its breath steady most of the time. There have been moments, though rare, spaced across millions of years, when that balance fails. When a sleeping chamber becomes too full, too pressurized, too heavy to remain unseen, then the quiet becomes thunder. A supervolcano wakes. It is not a single eruption, but a global event. The Earth's slow exhale turned into a storm. The last great one was at Yellowstone, about 640,000 years ago. The chamber beneath that region still breathes today, swelling and relaxing as magma shifts below. Scientists measure the ground rising and falling like a chest. It's not cause for fear, but awe, to witness a living planet move in deep time. In this awareness, you find calm. Even power, when held in stillness, is beautiful. You realize that everything in nature waits: seeds beneath soil, embryos in shells, magma beneath crust. All life, all transformation begins in patience. You look once more into the glowing chamber. It feels like looking into the planet's heart, slow, warm, wise. No anger, no haste, only the long, steady rhythm of becoming. As you drift upward again, you sense the surface world calling, the cool touch of rock, the whisper of wind. But you carry the warmth of this chamber with you. Like an ember of understanding, the earth beneath your feet is not sleeping against you. It is sleeping with you. Its dreams shape the mountains you climb, the soil that feeds you, the air that keeps you alive. You breathe out slowly, mirroring the planet's exhale. And in that moment, you feel the symmetry, your lungs, the Earth's lungs, both rising and falling together in endless, patient rhythm. You ascend softly toward the next layer, where the surface and the depths meet, where sleep turns to motion, and motion becomes memory. The magma's warmth fades behind you, but its song remains a low, steady hum beneath all living things, and just before silence takes you fully, a thought emerges, calm and certain. What does it mean when the earth finally wakes? You emerge from the warmth of the sleeping chambers, ascending through layers of ancient stone. The world grows cooler, but not quiet. There is movement here, a soft stirring that feels almost like breath beneath the crust. You pause in this in-between space, between deep silence and awakening sound, between pressure and release, and then, gently, the earth exhales. It begins not with thunder, but with a subtle tremor, a vibration that travels through the rock, a heartbeat expanding outward. Each pulse releases a story, the slow migration of magma, the shifting of faults, the earth rearranging itself in rhythms older than memory. You imagine standing on the surface, a quiet valley in the early dawn, mist rising, birds asleep. Beneath that calm, magma moves like blood, finding a new path. It pushes upward through fractures, guided not by will, but by temperature and density. Magma, lighter than the rock that holds it, seeks escape, not out of anger, but inevitability. It rises through cracks, melts pathways, creates its own architecture of release. Each motion is microscopic at first, atoms rearranging, crystals dissolving, gases expanding. Yet, Over centuries, those tiny shifts reshape continents. You drift beside one such stream of magma. It glows dimly, pulsing through stone, slowly widening its channel-like roots, pushing through soil. Above, pressure builds. The air itself seems to anticipate the change. Eruption, the word feels fierce. But here, in the Earth's language, it is a sigh. The planet releasing what it can no longer hold. You realize that fire, in its truest form, is an act of balance. When the crust can no longer contain the molten world below, it fractures delicately, almost tenderly, and magma touches air for the first time in tens of thousands of years. It is a reunion. The deep earth meeting the open sky. From your quiet vantage, you see how it begins. A fissure opens, light spills upward like a vein of dawn. No explosion, not yet. Just the slow, glowing emergence of something ancient returning to the surface. The gases that were once trapped, water vapor, sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, rush free, transforming magma into lava. Each bubble bursts, and the sound is like the soft crack of ice melting in spring. Lava is alive. It flows, thick or thin, smooth or jagged, depending on its chemistry. Basaltic lava, dark, fluid, glowing orange, spreads in rivers that move like honey in the sun. Triolitic lava, pale, viscous, resistant, piles and builds, creating domes that shimmer with heat. Each flow is a sentence in the Earth's language. Each eruption a breath that reshapes the surface. You drift closer, unburned and unharmed, watching the molten river carve its luminous path. The air shimmers with heat waves, bending light into mirages. It feels as though you are watching time itself change form from solid to liquid, from stillness to motion. In this moment, you sense no fear, only rhythm, only transformation. The eruption rises in intensity. A column of ash reaches skyward, gray, silver, violet. Particles catch sunlight and scatter it like stars at dawn. The air hums with electricity. Each fragment of ash charged by the friction of motion. The sky darkens, not as punishment, but as protection, a cooling blanket of dust and vapor. Lightning dances through the plume, brief flashes of energy connecting heaven and earth from space. This eruption would look like a flower blooming in reverse, opening downward instead of up, rooting its petals in molten stone. You float through the plume, feeling its temperature shift, hot. The ash particles, though small, carry minerals, silica, iron, potassium, that will one day fall and enrich the soil below. Even in eruption, the earth nourishes. You remember how, after past entire ecosystems were reborn in the ashes. New forests grew, lakes filled old calderas. Creatures evolved in the changed climate, adapting, thriving, becoming something new. Destruction and creation, forever intertwined. You imagine one of those calderas, vast and still, a circular valley where a mountain once stood, its edges rimmed with snow, its floor dotted with small lakes, steaming vents, and whispering springs. You descend into this quiet aftermath. It does not feel like ruin. It feels like rest. The land is raw, but alive. The ground warm beneath your feet. The air rich with minerals and moisture. Tiny green shoots rise through ash, the first signs of return. Life always finds its way back to warmth. You pause by one of the new hot springs. It bubbles softly, releasing vapor scented faintly of sulfur. The water glows turquoise in the morning light. This is how new beginnings feel, fragile, luminous, and healing. The same gases that once clouded the sky now create energy for microscopic life within the pool. Sulfur-loving bacteria feed here, turning harsh chemistry into nourishment. From these simple forms, complex life once evolved, perhaps in places just like this, billions of years ago. You realize now that eruption is renewal. It is how the planet circulates its interior, how it stirs the nutrients that would otherwise stay locked away. Without fire, the crust would grow cold, unchanging. Without movement, life would lose its spark. The Earth's fire is not a threat. It is metabolism, just as your own breath releases carbon, just as your heart sends warmth through your body. The planet, too, breathes and circulates. The same physics that drives your pulse drives the flow of magma beneath the crust. Everything alive, you, the oceans, the stars, exists in cycles of pressure and release. You sit on a ridge overlooking the cooled lava fields. The black stone stretches for miles, still faintly warm beneath the night air. Steam curls from cracks, and in the distance, the crater glows like the last ember of a dying fire. Silence returns, slow and full. The eruption's voice fades into memory. The land begins to settle again. The ash drifts downward, covering everything in a fine silver layer. And soon it will be as though the mountain only sighed in its sleep. You tilt your head upward. Through the thinning ash, stars begin to appear, each one clearer, sharper, brighter than before. It feels like the sky, too, has been cleansed. The air is cooler now. You breathe in, and for a moment, you can taste the minerals of the deep earth: iron, sulfur, salt, and stone. It is a reminder that you are made of the same elements that rise from the core: calcium in your bones, iron in your blood, carbon in your breath, all born from planetary fire. The eruption has ended, but its story continues in every grain of soil, in every mountain, in every living thing that grows from the ashes. You close your eyes, and in the darkness, you see the fire still, not raging, not consuming, but glowing gently beneath everything that exists. You think of all the supervolcanoes across the planet: Yellowstone, Topo, Toba, Long Valley, Era. Each one silent now, each one waiting, each one dreaming in molten rhythm. They are not warnings, but reminders that the world is alive beneath your feet, and that every calm day on Earth is a gift of the planet's deep patience. The Earth breathes, and you breathe with it for a long moment. You sit in this shared stillness, a human heartbeat resting within a planetary pulse. No fear, no hurry, only the vast comfort of being part of something so ancient, so ongoing, so beautifully alive. The ground beneath you cools. Night deepens. The stars drift overhead like sparks that escaped from the first fires of creation. And just as sleep begins to take you, a final question hums in your thoughts, quiet, curious, endless. You lie upon the ground, the world beneath you vast and patient. Beneath your quiet body, beneath the cool crust that holds forests, rivers, and cities, there are slow movements, unseen, unhurried, eternal. The planet does not stay still. It breathes in ways that mountains understand. The wind you feel above is only half the story. The other half unfolds below. In chambers of molten stone and mineral veins glowing softly with heat, the Earth's breath begins deep in the mantle, a zone of solid rock that moves like thick syrup over eons. When its currents shift, they carry whispers upward, invisible forces pushing gently against the crust. These rising plumes of heat, mantle plumes, are like the slow pulse of a sleeping heart. They rise, not in fury, but in patience, pushing upward until the crust thins, until a path opens, until a breath escapes. That breath is a volcano. When magma finds its way to the surface, it becomes the Earth's exhale, a release of energy stored over millions of years. The gases, carbon dioxide, water vapor, sulfur, have waited as long as mountains themselves to emerge. They hiss and sigh into the open air, rising through vents and craters. It is not just heat escaping. It is the memory of deep time made visible. You can almost imagine it now, standing at a safe distance, watching the surface shimmer with molten glow. The air smells faintly of minerals and rain. The mountain seems alive, breathing in long, slow rhythms, pressure building, then easing, like lungs expanding and softening. For a moment, the Earth itself seems to be alive in the way you are, restless, rhythmic, needing release. But this breathing is not random. It is part of a vast circulation, a planetary metabolism that moves material between the surface and the deep. What rises in magma will one day cool, harden, and sink again through the slow churn of tectonic plates. Rock becomes lava, lava becomes crust, crust becomes subducted, and the cycle continues. The planet digests itself slowly, but with purpose. Each eruption is not an act of anger. It is part of the balance that keeps the Earth alive. Volcanoes form in many ways. Some rise above subduction zones, where one tectonic plate slips beneath another, melting into new magma. Others form above mantle plumes, fixed hotspots, where columns of heat pierce through the crust like gentle candles burning upward through layers of wax. The Hawaiian Islands are such a chain, a record of one plume's slow journey beneath the moving Pacific plate. Each island, each volcanic peak, marks where the plume once reached the surface, exhaled, and then moved on. Even in these grand processes, there is rhythm, an almost musical sense of timing. Supervolcanoes, though enormous, also follow this breath. They are not constantly violent. They rest, sometimes for hundreds of thousands of years. Beneath their calderas, chambers of magma expand and contract like a diaphragm, inhaling magma from the mantle, exhaling gases through fumaroles and hot springs. The ground above subtly lifts and falls, as if the Earth itself were taking a slow, measured breath. You imagine the Yellowstone caldera, one of the largest breathing spaces of the planet. Beneath its surface lies a vast reservoir of molten rock stretching for tens of kilometers. Scientists monitor its pulse through seismographs and satellites, watching for the slightest swelling of the land. Each rise is a whisper of heat below. Each pause is an exhale. For now, Yellowstone sleeps, but its sleep is not death. It is the deep dreaming of a mountain that once burned bright. The gases released by volcanoes are more than just smoke and steam. They shape the atmosphere, sculpting conditions for life itself. Long ago, during Earth's early youth, volcanoes released the gases that formed the first atmosphere: carbon dioxide, nitrogen, water vapor, the ingredients that would one day give rise to oceans, clouds, and the air you now breathe. Every inhalation you take carries traces of that ancient breath. In a quiet way, you and the volcano are connected. You both exhale carbon dioxide into the same world, separated only by time and temperature. When magma reaches the surface and cools, it forms new land. Islands rise from the sea, black and shining, still warm from their birth. Lava flows harden into basalt, a rock dense and dark, rich in iron. Over years, rain and wind carve the surface, and life takes hold. Moss, ferns, roots finding grip in the stone. Volcanoes, though they can destroy, also create. They build the very ground where forests grow, where soil forms, where life renews itself after fire. Each eruption is a paradox, an ending and a beginning. Destruction intertwined with creation. In ancient myths, people sensed this dual nature. Volcanoes were seen as gods, spirits, or gateways to other realms. In Hawaii, Pele was the goddess of fire, whose temper shaped islands. In Japan, Mount Fuji was sacred, a bridge between earth and sky. In Indonesia, villagers offer prayers to Mount Merapi, believing it to be alive, a protector as much as a threat. Across cultures, the volcano's breath was revered, not feared alone, but respected as a necessary force in the balance of the world. Today, science has replaced mythology with data, but the reverence remains. Scientists measure volcanic gases, track earthquakes, and model magma movement. They listen, through instruments, to the whispers of the planet. A seismometer records the faint tremors, the first sighs of a mountain awakening. Satellites detect heat signatures from afar. Drones collect samples from vents where no human could safely stand. Each measurement is a translation, a way of hearing the slow, deep breath of the earth in language we can understand. Sometimes the breath becomes heavy. When pressure builds too high, when the crust can no longer hold the expanding magma, the exhale turns into eruption, sudden, forceful, transformative. Ash fills the sky, light bends through particles, sunsets glow blood red. The world witnesses a brief but powerful moment when the planet's inner heat meets the cool air of the surface. In that moment, balance is restored, and calm eventually returns. The land, though scarred, will heal. Lava will harden. Plants will grow. The cycle continues, as it always has. You imagine lying again on the ground after such an eruption. The air still carries warmth. The soil is dark, fertile, and alive with minerals. The earth, having released its breath, seems to settle, a gentle sigh echoing beneath your heartbeat. There is peace after the exhale. There is renewal in the pause. Supervolcanoes, though immense in scale, follow the same rhythm. Beneath their vast calderas lie magma chambers so large they could hold hundreds of cubic kilometers of molten rock. Yet most of the time they rest quietly. Scientists estimate that supervolcanoes erupt on timescales of hundreds of thousands to millions of years. Between those moments, they breathe subtly. Gas emissions, ground uplift, minor tremors, all part of their long, slow rhythm. The planet is patient. Its lungs span epochs. You wonder what it must feel like to be a volcano, to hold so much energy for so long, to breathe not in minutes, but in millennia, to inhale magma and exhale countenance. Perhaps, in some deep way, the volcano is a mirror, reflecting the same principle of balance that governs life itself, just as your own breath anchors you between tension and release. The planet's breath maintains equilibrium between creation and collapse. You and the Earth are both systems of rhythm, pulsing, breathing, balancing energy across time. The next time you feel the wind rise or the ground hum faintly beneath your feet, imagine that you are part of this planetary breath. Every inhale you take is a whisper of oxygen that once cycled through ancient volcanic skies. Every exhale you release carries carbon that may one day return to stone. You are both the observer and the participant, one breath among billions in a living, breathing Earth. The thought brings calm. You realize that the planet is not chaotic, but deeply ordered, an organism of rock and flame, constantly renewing itself. Beneath its fierce exterior lies harmony, a rhythm older than life itself. Supervolcanoes are not monsters waiting to awaken. They are organs of the Earth, releasing what must be released, restoring balance when the world grows heavy. You stand upon solid ground, or so it feels. The soil beneath your feet seems loyal, unmoving, a companion that has always been there. But beneath this surface calm lies a secret rhythm, an ancient movement, slower than dreams. The continents, those immense bodies of land that cradle forests, rivers, and cities, are not fixed. They drift upon molten foundations, floating on a restless mantle that never truly sleeps. You close your eyes and imagine the Earth from above, a blue marble, softly spinning in the dark. If you could speed up time, the continents would glide across the globe like clouds of stone. South America would drift away from Africa. The Himalayas would rise and crumble, and islands would emerge, disappear, then be reborn in other seas. The planet's face would change again and again, a living, breathing geography. It began long ago, before there were names, before there were eyes to see. Over 200 million years ago, there was only one great land, Pangaea, a colossal continent encircled by a single vast ocean. Imagine standing at its center, endless plains of green and desert stretching beyond the horizon, the air thick with primeval life, the crust beneath already yearning to part. Deep within the mantle, heat stirred, and slow convection currents began their work, gentle, persistent, unstoppable. The crust, you learn, is not a single solid shell, but a mosaic, a series of tectonic plates floating on the molten asthenosphere. These plates carry the continents, like rafts adrift on glowing seas of rock. Where they meet, the Earth reshapes itself. Some collide, crumpling mountains skyward. Others pull apart, birthing new oceans. Still, others slide past each other, their friction marking the tremor of earthquakes. The world's continents are not so much fixed landscapes as dancers in a silent waltz, forever circling, touching, partying, tracing slow arcs across deep time. You breathe in and sense that this movement is the planet's pulse, not hurried but patient, not chaotic but balanced. The continents move at the pace your fingernails grow, a few centimeters each year, almost imperceptible. And yet, given eons, that gentle drift can remake the entire world. Mountains rise like frozen waves, only to be worn down again by rain and wind. Ridges stretch beneath the sea, where molten rock cools to form new crust. It is creation and erosion in eternal conversation, the planet rewriting itself without sound in your mind. You travel to one of these places of birth, the mid-Atlantic ridge, a seam running through the ocean like a quiet scar. Here, new crust is born as magma wells up and hardens, pushing the Atlantic wider, millimeter by millimeter. You can almost hear it, the faint, slow hiss of the earth exhaling. No storm disturbs these depths, no voice narrates this change. And yet it continues, ceaselessly, without asking for witness. Far away, on the edges of the Pacific, another story unfolds. Here, the plates collide, one sinking beneath another, in a process called subduction. The crust is consumed, melted, and reborn within the mantle's heat. These are the zones of fire, the ring of fire, encircling the ocean like a crown of volcanoes. Earthquakes rattle these boundaries. Magma rises, breaking through as glowing veins of molten rock. It sounds violent, but even here there is balance. For every mountain the earth builds, it gives back land to the deep. Creation and destruction, neither cruel nor kind, are the planet's own slow breath. You remember now that the continents are more than just land. They are archives, each carrying fossils, rocks, and clues of their former places. The Himalayas, for instance, tell the tale of India's long voyage. Once adrift in the southern hemisphere, the Indian plate journeyed north, colliding with Asia some 50 million years ago. The collision continues today, pushing the mountains higher each year, a slow crescendo of stone touching the sky. When you run your hand over a rock from those peaks, you touch what was once seabed, now elevated to the roof of the world. The planet, you realize, recycles itself endlessly, not with haste, but with grace. Drifting through this imagery, your thoughts soften. You picture North and South America inching westward, Europe and Africa turning slowly, Australia wandering through the Pacific's calm expanse. Even Antarctica, cloaked in ice, drifts along its ancient route, a frozen traveler in the long voyage of the continents. Each movement reshapes wind and water, life and climate. Even where the motion seems invisible, the consequences are vast. Mountains redirect air currents, which guide rains and shape deserts. The shifting crust changes the depth of oceans, altering the balance of the planet's breath. Every quiet quake, every rising ridge, sends ripples through time. You begin to feel how connected everything truly is. The ground beneath your feet, the air above your head, the tides that whisper to the shore, all are parts of the same motion. You are standing not upon stillness, but upon a wave that takes millions of years to crest. It is humbling and strangely soothing, because in this vast, slow motion of continents, there is patience, a rhythm that outlasts fear, a reminder that change need not be sudden to be real. You remember Alfred Wegener, the scientist who first dared to suggest that continents drifted. In 1912, his idea was ridiculed. How could whole continents move? How could land float upon solid rock? Yet, he saw patterns others ignored, matching fossils found on opposite sides of the ocean, coastlines that fit together like ancient puzzle pieces. Though Wegener never lived to see his theory accepted. His vision proved true. The earth was indeed alive, its surface in slow, majestic motion. Science, like the planet, moves through time with patience, its truths often arriving softly after years of silence. Now, as you breathe and listen, you can almost sense the weight of continents shifting below. The tectonic plates hum like deep cello strings, their tones resonating through magma and stone. Earthquakes and volcanoes, though sudden in human time, are simply the notes in this long, quiet symphony of motion. Each tremor is not a sign of anger, but of adjustment, the earth aligning itself, keeping balance with the forces within. You imagine the molten mantle swirling below, carrying heat from the core outward like a slow, glowing tide. It is this movement that fuels everything: volcanoes, mountains, earthquakes, even the continents drift. Without it, the planet would be silent, lifeless, unmoving, a frozen sphere. Instead, it breathes. You drift deeper into this realization that motion is the planet's form of memory. Every ridge and valley records the story of collisions and separations. Even your own presence, your breath, your warmth, is the outcome of this restless geology. The continent's movement shaped the oceans that nurtured life, and those oceans, in turn, sculpted the beings who would one day stand in wonder and call it home. You are not separate from this dance. You are part of it, a pattern of motion slowed into awareness. As your thoughts grow softer, the vision widens. From the slow drift of continents, you imagine other motions: the rotation of the earth itself, the orbit around the sun, the spinning of the galaxy. Each movement within a larger rhythm, each cycle both unique and familiar. The same forces that push mountains upward turn the stars in their spirals above, and as you lie quietly, you feel a strange harmony between the two. Your stillness and the planet's ceaseless drift, the pause and the motion, both belonging to one great breath. The continents continue their slow, eternal voyage, and though you cannot feel it, you know the world beneath you moves patiently, faithfully. Land and ocean, crust and core, all turning, exchanging, living in rhythm. The planet is never truly still, yet it teaches stillness, that to move slowly is not to be lost, that change, even imperceptible, can shape everything, and somewhere deep below, beneath your resting body, the mantle stirs and flows, a gentle reminder that the earth itself dreams. You open your eyes within the dream of the earth, a memory older than language. Before there were stories, before names for mountains or oceans, there was a breath, a silence, and then a deep stirring from beneath the crust. You feel it not as violence, but as a slow awakening, the kind of motion that takes thousands of years to stretch and exhale. This is the pulse of the planet, ancient, patient, knowing you stand, not in the present, but in a time when the sky itself seemed unsure of its color. The air holds the scent of stone and sulfur. The world is quiet in that eerie way that follows an immense breath. You sense that something monumental has just occurred, not in rage, but in transformation. This is Lake Toba, resting now in Sumatra, vast and still. But 75,000 years ago, it was the heart of a sleeping giant waking all at once. The Toba supereruption was one of Earth's greatest exhalations. Imagine magma chambers stretching wide beneath the crust, filled with molten rock and volatile gases, building tension for millennia. Imagine the crust above trembling, unable to bear the pressure, and then the release. Not a single explosion, but a chain of breaths from the deep, each one carving, reshaping, rewriting the surface of the world. The eruption cast out nearly 3,000 cubic kilometers of material, rock, ash, and vapor into the sky. It was a symphony of fire and gravity. Mountains unmade themselves. The land groaned, and from its lungs poured a cloud so immense it wrapped the planet in shadow. Ash drifted across continents, falling like gray snow upon lands that had never known such silence. But here, in this meditation, you are not witnessing destruction. You are feeling the long exhale of Earth's creative cycle. Volcanoes, after all, are not only destroyers, they are wombs of renewal. Every eruption, no matter how fierce, is an act of release, the planet adjusting, evolving, cooling itself from the heat of its heart. Beneath the noise, beneath the fire, there is peace, the deep order of geology unfolding at its own pace. The people of that age, small bands of early humans, may have watched the sky grow dim. Perhaps they did not understand the reason, but they understood change. The sun became a faint ghost behind a veil of ash. Days cooled into chill twilight. Forests sighed beneath the weight of falling dust. Rivers carried a taste of minerals newly born. The earth entered what scientists now call a volcanic winter, a time when sunlight weakened and global temperatures dropped. You can almost feel it, the stillness that comes after great noise. It is the kind of quiet that echoes through every layer of time. The Toba eruption may have caused a bottleneck in human evolution, a thinning of the species, a moment when survival depended on cooperation, migration, and resilience. But even this narrowing was a kind of shaping. From it, humanity learned to adapt, to listen to the planet's rhythms more closely, to move with the changing winds. Close your eyes, breathe. Imagine the ash falling, soft, slow, endless. Each flake of it carries within the memory of fire, of transformation. The world is covered, muted, as though the earth has pulled a blanket over itself to rest. And under that blanket, seeds wait. Microbes stir in the dark, reshaping soil chemistry. Life, ever patient, begins again. Scientists who study Toba do so through clues left in stone, ice, and sediment. They measure tiny layers of glassy shards, tephra, that drifted across oceans and landed thousands of miles away. They find sulfur traces trapped in Antarctic ice, whispers of ancient gases. They read the isotope ratios, the frozen signals of climate change. To them, this is not a story of catastrophe, but of continuity. Because when the ash settled, when the air cleared, the cycle of weather began to rebalance. Rain fell, washing the minerals into lakes and valleys, feeding the soil. New forests grew where the old had burned away. You trace your hand across the idea of time. Each volcanic eruption is both an end and a beginning, a punctuation mark in the story of the earth. The Toba caldera itself, now filled with water, is one of the largest lakes in the world. Where once fire raged, there is now stillness. The surface reflects the clouds, and beneath it, the memory of magma sleeps again. It is strange, isn't it, how nature heals itself through the very same forces that seem to break it. The crust fractures, yet mountains rise anew. Ash darkens the sky, yet from that darkness grows fertility, richness, and green. It is a rhythm older than suffering, older than fear, the rhythm of transformation. The earth does not mourn its own eruptions. It breathes through them. You picture early humans walking across a cooled landscape, following rivers lined with ash. Perhaps they found warmth near geothermal vents, where the ground still whispered heat. Perhaps they gathered obsidian, sharp and dark, forming tools that would carry them through generations. In the fire's aftermath, they found not despair, but innovation. The eruption that dimmed the sky also sparked ingenuity. Survival required memory, the first science, the first awareness of cause and effect, of change and renewal. Listen to the wind moving over Lake Toba today. It hums softly, brushing the caldera's edge. The lake is deep, nearly half a mile, and its waters hide an island at the center, formed by magma pushing upward long after the eruption had ended. That island, Samasir, is the Earth's gentle reminder that from emptiness, something always rises. Even in the places hollowed by fire, new forms take shape. Now, imagine standing on the shore at dusk. The lake is still glass-like. The air is cool and carries a hint of volcanic minerals, a metallic sweetness. You look down and see the reflection of the stars, scattered like embers across the surface. They look as though they could have been the same lights seen by those who survived the ancient eruption, those who looked up and felt both fear and wonder at the power above and below. Volcanologists say that Toba's eruption likely lowered global temperatures by several degrees for years, maybe decades. Yet, within centuries, ecosystems rebounded. Forests spread again. Lakes formed. The balance returned. Even the atmosphere cleansed itself, slowly, tenderly, as though washing away its own memory of ash. In time, what had been a wound became a new equilibrium. There is a quiet lesson in that, a meditation on endurance. The planet does not rush to heal. It unfolds naturally. Each process, eruption, cooling, erosion, regrowth, is part of a continuous cycle that refuses to be hurried. You can feel that same patience within yourself. Every hardship, every loss, has its own geological rhythm of renewal. Your heart, too, forms its own fertile soil after fire. Toba's ash traveled far, to India, Africa, even the poles. But in that wide dispersion was connection. What happened in Sumatra touched every part of the planet. It was the earth speaking in one voice, one long echo through time, reminding every living thing of its shared atmosphere. That unity is not metaphorical, it is literal. Particles from that eruption entered the lungs of creatures' countenance. Even now, trace elements of it remain in the planet's crust, a fingerprint of transformation. You lie still, eyes half closed, and the night feels alive. The air holds a gentle charge, not of fear, but of quiet anticipation, like the moment before a song begins. Above you, the dark sky hums faintly. It is not sound you can hear, but something you feel deep within your bones. A whisper carried through time and space. The sun, though far away, is never truly silent. It breathes in flares and exhales in streams of invisible wind, the solar wind. A river of charged particles flowing endlessly outward. Every second, it washes over planets, dust, and frozen worlds alike. When this solar wind reaches Earth, it meets something both invisible and extraordinary, the magnetic field. You imagine it now, an invisible cocoon surrounding the planet, stretching thousands of kilometers into space. It is shaped not by human hands, but by the planet's molten heart. Deep beneath your feet, iron moves like liquid fire, spinning within Earth's core, creating a magnetosphere, a vast, unseen shield. It catches the sun's breath and bends it gracefully, guiding charged particles along curved lines that funnel toward the poles. And when they reach those edges of our world, something magical happens. The particles collide with atoms high in the atmosphere, oxygen, nitrogen, the breath of the sky itself. These collisions are gentle dances, and from each meeting bursts a tiny spark of light. Billions upon billions of sparks shimmer together, painting luminous curtains that ripple across the sky. You know this dance by name: Aurora Borealis in the north, Australis in the south. You open your inner eyes and drift upward through the layers of the atmosphere. The troposphere fades behind you, where clouds and weather live, and you enter the still, crystalline heights of the thermosphere. Here, the air is thin as thought itself. Each atom waits, solitary and free, until a rushing solar particle touches it. Oxygen sings in green, sometimes in red. Nitrogen hums in blue and violet. Together they form ribbons that ripple like silk in slow motion. It feels almost alive. The aurora does not stay still. It breathes. It expands, fades, returns. A slow inhale and exhale of the planet's magnetism. You realize this is Earth's electric heartbeat, visible to anyone willing to look into the cold night and wait. Every culture that has watched these lights has given them stories of spirits, ancestors, foxes dancing across snow, or warriors riding in silence. Science names the cause, but myth names the feeling. Between the two lies truth. These lights are the earth speaking in color, you imagine. For a moment, being one of those early observers, standing on frozen tundra centuries ago, watching the sky burn green. No satellites, no instruments, just awe. Perhaps they sensed, as you do now, that these lights connect sky and ground, sun and soul. Even without knowing plasma or magnetism, they knew the feeling of being small, yet part of something immense. The aurora is not only beauty, it is a sign of balance. For while it looks gentle, it comes from vast, unseen tension. The sun's storms sometimes surge, sending strong waves of charged energy toward Earth. When these collide with our magnetosphere, they disturb its calm, shaking magnetic lines, creating geomagnetic storms. Yet the same turbulence that could disrupt becomes visible beauty. Where invisible energy meets atmosphere, chaos becomes light. It's as if the universe insists, even disruption has grace. You float now in this meeting point between space and air. You see the faint blue curve of the Earth below, the thin atmosphere glowing softly at the edge. Above you, ribbons of green unfold like an auroral ocean tide. Each movement is silent, yet you feel a pulse, a rhythm older than language. This is the solar wind made visible, the sun touching the earth through color. It is a reminder that even across millions of kilometers, relationships endure. The light you see began as violence, a flare of energy bursting from the sun, and now becomes peace in motion. The aurora carries time in it. It is an echo of past sunlight, transformed into present glow. And when you gaze upon it, you are watching communication, not metaphorically, but truly. Particles exchanged, energy transferred, magnetism responding. The planet listens and replies. Imagine yourself descending again, gently, through the atmosphere. The glowing ribbons fade behind you as the denser air begins to wrap you once more. You pass through layers, mesosphere, stratosphere, troposphere, each one carrying its own quiet. The world below lies wrapped in night, unaware of the cosmic dance happening just above its ceiling of clouds. But even if most sleep through it, the aurora still shines. It doesn't ask to be seen. It simply exists, a quiet proof that beauty does not need an audience. You walk now across snow or sand or a mountain ridge, wherever your imagination takes you. Above, the aurora ripples like a curtain of thought. You breathe slowly, matching its rhythm. You think of how your own mind mirrors this dance, thoughts and emotions rising, colliding, glowing for a moment, then fading into stillness. Your brain, like Earth's field, manages storms too. When worry or change sends waves through you, your neurons, your own magnetic field of thought, create light, balance, restoration. Perhaps that's why the aurora feels familiar. It is a reflection of the inner world, scaled to cosmic size. Somewhere deep below your feet, in Earth's core, molten iron still turns, generating magnetic strength. You realize this. The beauty in the sky depends on fire beneath the ground. The same energy that forged the planet also protects it, shaping the shield that lets life survive. The aurora, then, is not only art, it is evidence of connection, from core to sky, from sun to earth, from you to everything else. You close your eyes, and even in darkness, you still see colors flickering. The afterimage of aurora lingers, as though your mind itself has become luminous. You imagine following one of those light threads, tracing it upward through the atmosphere and out into space. It would lead you toward the sun, toward the origin of every breath of energy that reaches our planet. And yet, somewhere in that vastness, you feel tenderness. The solar wind, though fierce, becomes soft as it touches the magnetosphere, like hands meeting after a long distance apart. Even cosmic forces have gentleness in them. Perhaps the Earth's magnetic field is more than physics. Perhaps it is an embrace, a quiet resistance against harm. Every moment it deflects radiation, guides compasses, shapes migratory paths for birds and whales. It protects, invisibly, without thanks. The aurora is its signature, the visible smile of an unseen guardian as you breathe. You sense the slow spin of the planet, turning toward dawn somewhere beyond the horizon. The aurora will fade soon, sunlight washing away its colors. But you know now that the beauty is not gone. It has simply gone unseen, stored in magnetic lines, waiting for another night to awaken. That's how life works too. What glows now may fade, but it is never lost. Energy transforms, but it never vanishes. You let your thoughts drift. The night begins softly. You rest beneath a quiet sky, stars pulsing faintly, unaware of the story the earth once told, a story written not in light but in shadow. There was a time, long ago, when this same sky was hidden, when ash fell like dark rain and sunlight was only a memory. Yet even then, life whispered. Even then, the world turned onward, slow and patient. Close your eyes and drift backward through time, 75,000 years, then more, then beyond memory. The air cools as you descend into history. You find yourself standing at the edge of a vast lake, Lake Toba, in what is now Indonesia. Around you, the earth trembles in its sleep. You can feel it, a heartbeat, deep below, steady, heavy, almost musical. The sound of magma moving through stone. The ground beneath your feet hums faintly, like a slow drum. Beneath that rhythm, molten rock presses upward, pressure building silently for centuries. The earth's crust stretches and flexes like the surface of a living thing. Then, one day, the balance breaks. There is no roar, not at first. Only a vibration that rises through your bones. Then, the mountain breathes, a deep exhalation from the core of the planet. In one unbroken moment, the world changes. Rock shatters, fire climbs into the sky, and light turns to shadow. You do not see destruction, only transformation. The eruption begins not as chaos, but as release. The planet, under its own pressure, exhales. Columns of ash rise into the stratosphere, towering higher than clouds. They billow like ghostly trees, growing and spreading, carried by wind into every direction. For weeks, for months, the earth breathes smoke. Each particle of ash drifts gently through the air, so fine it moves like dust from a forgotten dream dot from above. If you could see it, the eruption forms a vast umbrella, a gray blossom unfurling over continents. The sun fades behind the veil. Daylight dims into twilight, twilight sinks into night. The sky becomes a deep gray ocean, rippling with hidden currents of heat and silence. You breathe in this moment. The stillness after the storm begins. The air smells of minerals, of stone turned to memory. The sound of the eruption softens, echoing only faintly through the distance. And then a strange peace follows, the peace of a world changed. For months, the sky stays dim. Ash drifts slowly downward, layering the ground in fine, silken gray. Rivers grow colder. Winds carry the taste of dust. The temperature drops. The sun's warmth is scattered back into space by the cloud of ash, and the earth, for a time, cools. Scientists call this a volcanic winter, a season not marked by months, but by years. Crops falter, ecosystems adjust, and yet, even amid the darkness, life continues. Some species perish, but others adapt, moving, shifting, finding warmth where they can. In the hush that follows the eruption, a new rhythm begins, the rhythm of recovery. You walk through this quiet world, and you notice how everything has changed, yet how everything endures. Trees bend beneath ash, but their roots hold firm. Seeds wait beneath the gray blanket, patient. The soil itself, though burdened by dust, begins to absorb minerals, iron, sulfur, nutrients from the deep. When the rains return, they will wash this new chemistry into rivers, feeding future forests. And you realize something profound. Destruction and creation are twins. The same force that broke the mountain now feeds the earth. The same heat that silenced the forests also shaped the soil that will nourish new life. It is a cycle, vast and patient, one that human time rarely perceives. The Toba eruption left a mark across the planet, a cooling that lasted years, perhaps decades. Some believe it thinned the human population to near extinction, a bottleneck from which we all descend. Others think it simply tested the resilience of early humans, driving them to adapt, migrate, think differently. And so, even in the ash, the seeds of human story grew. Perhaps it was the cold that taught us fire, the hunger that taught us to imagine. You kneel, picking up a handful of ancient ash. It feels fine as silk between your fingers. Within each grain is a record, the fingerprint of magma, the memory of minerals that once slept deep within Earth's mantle. If you could listen closely, perhaps you'd hear a faint whisper, the Earth reminding you that all endings are just another form of transformation. Volcanoes, even supervolcanoes, are not enemies. They are the Earth's language. When pressure builds, they speak. When imbalance grows, they restore it through release, renewal, and quiet rebuilding. Like breath, like tides, like your own heartbeat, the planet's rhythms are cycles of holding and letting go. Imagine the years after the eruption. The ash clouds thin. The sun begins to return, at first pale, then warm again. Where once there was only gray, color begins to bloom. Moss appears first, clinging to rock, then grasses, then small flowers, with fragile petals that catch the light. Each one is a declaration. The earth heals. You walk through this reborn landscape. The lake that filled the ancient crater gleams like a mirror, stretching beyond sight. It is calm now, the mountain transformed into water. Beneath its surface lie layers of ash, rich with minerals, slowly giving rise to life unseen. Tiny organisms begin the work of rebuilding, and in time, forests will rise along the crater's edge. Birds will return, their songs carrying over water once born from fire. It is strange and beautiful how silence becomes the cradle of renewal. You sense it in your own being, too. Moments of collapse, of darkness, of uncertainty, they are the mind's eruptions, necessary to clear, to cool, to make room for new thought. The Toba eruption, then, is not just a story of Earth. It is the story of every soul that endures change. The ash that once dimmed the world becomes the foundation of new soil. The stillness that once frightened becomes rest. The cold that once harmed becomes balance. From every loss, something endures. You stand now at the water's edge. The air is clean again, soft and moist with early dawn. The sky holds the faintest trace of pink, the color of light returning. You feel warmth touch your skin, gentle as forgiveness. The earth has exhaled, and now it inhales once more. Deep below, magma still stirs, but quietly asleep again. The pressure is gone, the balance restored. And you understand, supervolcanoes are not sleeping monsters, but sleeping rhythms. They are reminders that stillness is not absence, that beneath calm surfaces, energy waits, gathering slowly, patiently. And just as the earth rests between eruptions, so must we. Stillness is not emptiness, it is preparation. You close your eyes and listen. The lake laps softly against rock. Wind sighs through the new grasses. Somewhere far away, the molten core hums faintly, a deep and steady pulse that has not ceased for 4.5 billion years. It is the Earth's lullaby, the song that continues no matter how many times the surface changes. You let that hum become your breath. You inhale the warmth of recovery. You exhale the memory of fire. And in the rhythm of your own body, you find the same balance the planet keeps, holding tension, releasing, healing. The ash has settled. Now the air clears. The story softens. The story begins with the sound of water. Not the crashing kind, not waves against cliffs or the roar of storm tides, but the gentlest rhythm, a pulse that moves through everything. It is the sound of the earth's first heartbeat, the slow and endless breathing of the sea. You drift closer. The air cools, heavy with salt and memory. The horizon stretches until it dissolves into mist. And there, at the meeting of light and water, the planet remembers its oldest dream, life. The world you enter now is not the modern ocean, bright with coral and song. It is the ocean of beginnings. Billions of years ago, before green had touched the continents, the surface of Earth shimmered with newly formed seas. They were young and strange, filled not with fish, but with chemistry. Beneath their ripples, minerals met molecules, heat met stillness, and in that quiet meeting, something miraculous began. At the edge of a volcanic vent, dark plumes rose from the seafloor. They looked like smoke, but they were the breath of the planet, rich with iron, sulfur, and energy from deep below. These were hydrothermal vents, the first alchemists of life. Here, in the blackness of the deep water met fire and did not vanish. Instead, they danced. The vents glowed faintly, their mineral chimneys shimmering with heat. Around them, the water was alive with potential charged by chemical gradients, stirred by subtle flows. Each droplet carried ingredients for life, amino acids, carbon compounds, energy to bind them. And slowly, over unimaginable time, patterns emerged, molecules learning to copy themselves, to change, to remember. From such quiet chemistry, the first whispers of biology rose. The ocean became the world's cradle, dark, calm, infinite. You float there now, weightless. The water around you hums with warmth. You see no creatures, yet you feel presence, the potential of life, thick as a dream just before waking. Above, light barely touches the surface. Below, the vents glow like constellations in a black sky. It is as if the stars themselves had fallen into the sea. Close your eyes. Listen to the soundless conversation between rock and water. Each bubble of gas, each flicker of heat is an exchange, an energy offering, a promise that something is beginning. And you realize that this too is a form of heartbeat. The earth has many, the pulse of magma, the rhythm of tides, the drift of air. But here, beneath the sea, is the most patient one, the pulse of becoming. Time flows differently here. Years pass like seconds, eons like breaths. Slowly, the ocean begins to change. Molecules organize themselves into membranes, delicate walls that separate inside from outside. Within those fragile bubbles, reactions repeat, adapt, and stabilize. The first cells, simple, microscopic, drift with the currents. They feed on the energy of the vents, multiplying in the warmth. This is the first dawn, not of sunlight, but of awareness. The ocean is learning to think through chemistry. You drift among these invisible pioneers, and though you cannot see them, you can sense their rhythm. Countless small lives, dividing, merging, evolving, each one a note in the song of persistence. The ocean, once silent, is now alive with movement too small to hear. Above, the surface glimmers faintly. Sunlight begins to touch the waves, scattering gold across blue. For the first time, light meets life, and something stirs a new way to live, powered not by heat, but by light itself. Photosynthesis is born. The sea changes color. Microscopic cyanobacteria bloom, their cells shimmering like emerald dust. They breathe in carbon and exhale oxygen, slowly changing the chemistry of the whole planet. The air fills, not suddenly, but gradually, with a new gas that will one day allow fire to burn and lungs to breathe. Oxygen, invisible but transformative, begins to write a new chapter of Earth's story. The water hums with it, with possibility, with growth. Light and chemistry intertwine. The calm sea that once birthed the first cell now becomes a vast, living world. You open your eyes again, and the scene shifts forward in time. Now the ocean teems with color. Coral reefs shimmer like underwater gardens. Fish glide like streaks of light. Whales sing in the distance, their voices echoing through the deep like ancient hymns. Every creature, every shape, is descended from that first whisper near the vents. The ocean carries the memory of its own creation, encoded in DNA, passed like a lullaby from one generation to the next. The waves rise and fall, like the earth breathing again. And you begin to notice this rhythm of the ocean is the same rhythm as your own body. Your blood, rich in salt and minerals, mirrors the chemistry of those first seas. Your heartbeat matches the pulse of the tides. Inside you, the same dance of molecules continues. Billions of years later, the same balance of water and energy, still creating, still adapting. The realization feels tender, comforting. You are not separate from the ocean. You are its continuation. You float on your back now, eyes toward the stars. The night above reflects the dark below, galaxies mirroring plankton, stars mirroring bioluminescent creatures that glow softly in the waves. The boundary between sea and sky dissolves. Everything is reflection. The wind whispers through the stillness, and you remember the words of the planet. All life is one breath, shared in countless forms. The sea changes again, as it always does. Ice ages come and go. Continents drift, carrying the shapes of new coasts. Species rise and fall. The deep currents continue their endless circulation, connecting all waters, all shores. The ocean's cradle has become a network of life, from coral polyps to humans who sail its surface, dreaming of where they came from. And yet, beneath all that motion, the deep still remembers its first warmth, the vent, the chemistry, the whisper of creation. Even now, hydrothermal vents continue their silent glow, hidden miles below. Around them, entire ecosystems thrive without sunlight. Giant tube worms, ghostly crabs, translucent fish, living only on the energy from Earth's core. They remind us that life does not depend solely on the sky, but also on the fire below. You dive again, descending through cool blue into the black depths. Down here, gravity feels softer. Sound slows. Thoughts drift. You feel the ancient pulse again, the deep, slow exhale of the earth. Each bubble that rises is a fragment of time, carrying warmth upward, carrying history. For a moment, you imagine the ocean as a single being, vast, breathing, eternal. Its tides are its heartbeat, its waves, the rhythm of emotion, its storms, brief moments of anger that give way to calm. You realize that the sea is not separate from the sky or land, it is their reflection, their memory, their song. And the lullaby of the ocean continues. Do not fear the depths, it seems to say, for every depth holds a light unseen. Even in silence, there is creation. You let that thought settle. Your breath slows, matching the ocean's pulse. Above you, faint beams of sunlight pierce through water, long, soft, golden threads. They reach toward you like memories, touching your skin with warmth that traveled millions of miles from the sun, through the atmosphere, through the surface. Into this silent cathedral of blue, you float upward, carried by those rays. As you ascend, the water brightens. The surface shimmers ahead, a mirror between two worlds. And when you break through it, you are reborn into light. The air feels new, alive, with salt and wind. Clouds drift slowly above, their reflections rippling below. You lie on the surface, arms open, feeling the balance between gravity and buoyancy, between surrender and support. This is what the ocean teaches: how to let go, how to trust the rhythm that carries you even when you do not steer. You close your eyes once more. The sound of waves folds around you like a blanket. The world feels safe again, because now you know the ocean is not just water. It is memory. It remembers the beginning, the first heat, the first breath, the first spark of life. And as it holds the planet, it holds you. In the far distance, lightning flickers, but it does not frighten you. It is only energy returning to the sea, part of the same endless exchange that began billions of years ago. Everything is connected: fire to water, light to darkness, birth to stillness. As twilight falls, the sky deepens into violet and gold. Stars appear one by one, their reflections shimmering on the surface of the waves. And you understand, the same chemistry that built the first living cell is the same that burns inside those distant suns. The universe repeats itself in every scale, every form. You are floating in the middle of infinity, and it feels peaceful. The air hums softly. Your heartbeat slows. You drift between thought and sleep, between wonder and surrender. The story ends not with words, but with rhythm, the rhythm of tides, of breath, of becoming. We came from the ocean, the narrator whispers gently as the chapter closes. And one day, when we return to stillness, it will welcome us again, not as strangers, but as memories come home.